So today we're going to talk about why your state is the only thing that matters for you to manifest your desires and goals. And that means you don't need any techniques for your manifestations to work, right? So we are going to talk about the prime directive of enjoyment, the law of perception and projection, the peace replacement protocol, the supremacy of state over technique, defining the end, understanding the buffer, somatic safety, the art of revision, and the 24-hour reality ratio. Seems like a bunch of fancy words, but it will make sense by the end of this video, right? So you need to first recognize that having fun provides the highest return on investment for your energy, right? So for example, success, wealth, and love are ultimately sought because we believe they will produce joy. So by going directly to the joy first through hobbies, relaxation, and play, you short circuit the system, right? You enter the destination frequency without needing the vehicle, which is a circumstance, to get you there, right? Struggle implies you are swimming upstream against the current of your own life. Enjoyment is the act of floating, right? When you float, the current, which is the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it carries you to your destination faster than you can ever swim, right? You need to be in the flow of the stream, not be against the stream, right? So the alchemical process of transmuting the waiting time into living time, that's what we're going to talk about, right? So most people live in a metaphysical waiting room, refusing to be happy until their name is called, which is manifestation appearing in their life. This waiting energy is energy of lack. Like if you keep waiting for your desires to be materialized into a physical plane, then that means you're still emotionally dependent on seeing external reality change. And if you're still emotionally dependent on seeing external reality change, then that means you're still needy, you're still in lack. You're not being the abundant version of yourself, you're not being the highest version of yourself. Only if you are being the abundant version of yourself, only when you have your desire mentally, and when you stop waiting, because when you have your desire, then you will stop waiting, you will not wait, right? You need to be in the emotional state of how you would be if you are in a desired reality. And if you are waiting, then that means you don't already have your desire. And the fundamental rule of manifestation is you can only have what you already have, right? So for example, by deeply enjoying a cup of coffee, a walk, or a movie, you are telling the universe, I am satisfied, right? Satisfaction is a seed of abundance. You cannot be satisfied and desperate simultaneously. You can't sit in both chairs at once. So if you are satisfied, then you will not be needy, you will not be desperate. But if you're needy and desperate, then you can't be satisfied. It is one way or the other, right? So your mind is a projector. The world is a screen. If you dislike the movie, you do not attack the screen, you change the film reel in the projector, right? I will give you another example. If you want the mirror to smile, you need to smile first. You can't tear down the mirror, you can't be angry at the mirror, right? It doesn't work that way, it doesn't make any sense. For the mirror to smile back, you need to smile first. And that same analogy also applies to manifestation as well. Manifestation is all about getting an internal change. Manifestation is not about getting external change, right? The thing that most people go wrong with manifestation is they think that manifestation is an external change. They believe that manifestation only works if you can see results in your external reality. But what you don't realize is manifestation is first an internal change, and because of that internal change, external results happen, right? So your state determines what you consider valid evidence. In a state of insecurity, a delayed text message is valid evidence for abandonment. But in a state of security, that same delayed text is valid evidence that the other person is busy, right? The event is neutral, the event is the same. The state assigns the meaning. You assign the meaning towards an incident, towards a situation, towards a circumstance, right? The brain is a search engine designed to prove you right. If your search query is, why is my life so hard? Then your brain will find millions of results answering that question, right? If you change the query to, why is peace so available to me? Why I am so satisfied in life? Why am I so happy? Why am I so abundant? Why am I so rich? Why do I never have problem regarding money? If you keep asking questions like that, then your brain must return those results as well. Your brain must scan. your previous experiences, your past incidents, your past circumstances, for it to bring you the results, for you to bring the answers, for you to grow your conviction in asking these questions, right? So whatever question, whatever statement you say to yourself, you ask yourself, your brain will literally search your entire mind to prove you right, right? So the radical acceptance that nothing outside of you has the power to make you feel anything without your consent, that is the most important part of this video, right? You believe the rude worker annoyed you, right? But in reality, that coworker offered a stimulus, and you chose the response of annoyance based on your internal set point, right? Whenever someone cuts you off in traffic, whenever someone annoys you, whenever someone tries to make you annoyed, you choose the reaction, right? Never ever ever blame external circumstances for your internal reactions, because the only thing you have control over is yourself. It's your emotional state, it is your reactivity, right? And since that is the only thing you can control, if you're not in control over it, don't blame external circumstances, because you are in control over it, right? You can choose. I mean, I don't want to spoil the video, I will continue, but to give you a spoiler, okay, let me just say it. You can choose to be peaceful rather than being annoyed, rather than being angry, right? You can't blame external circumstances, you can't blame anyone, anything. No matter what you're going through in life, you are choosing to feel that particular emotion, whether it be a positive emotion or whether it be a negative emotion, but you are choosing it. Take radical responsibility for the emotional state you are emitting, right? When you choose anger, you are drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't make sense, right? You weaponize your reality against yourself by creating an emotional environment where only negativity can thrive, right? So let me talk about the peace replacement protocol. This is a non-negotiable mental circuit breaker designed to stop negative spirals before they harden into reality, right? This is a daily practice that you can do. So the moment you feel a contraction in your chest, a spike of anxiety or a flash of anger or a flash of worriness, whatever it may be, this is your alarm clock, right? So whenever you feel a sense of bad emotional state that is coming up, that is popping up within your system, immediately pause, close your eyes if possible, and state, I can see peace instead of this. I can choose peace instead of this, right? This is a command to your subconscious to switch lens. This is you taking responsibility of the emotional state that you're going to emit in that particular situation. When a sudden bill pops up, if you're worried, then you can take a step back. You can be aware of that emotion and you can say to yourself, internally or externally, that you can choose peace right now, because your external circumstances has nothing to do with your internal state, right? So I will also give you a tired approach for moments of high resistance, right? So if you cannot believe you can see peace, you can step down one step further and you can say, I could see peace here if I wanted it. Right? Even if you can't be peaceful at that particular moment, you can still say, I could see peace if I really wanted it. If I really wanted it, right? This reclaims your agency. It reminds you that the anger is a choice you are making, not a condition being forced upon you, right? So by prioritizing your peace over your right to be mad, you become immune to the world. You realize that winning an argument is a loss if it costs you your state, right? Whatever circumstance you go through in life, if the cost of winning that argument or changing a situation is your state, don't do it. Your state must be in your highest priority. If you need to cut some people off, if that can preserve your state, then do it. If you can avoid certain situations, and by avoiding those situations, you can uplift your state, you can maintain your positive state, then do it, right? So let's talk about how to recognize the ego's addiction to pain, right? The ego believes that if it stops being angry, it becomes vulnerable. And this can be any state, it can be worry, it can be envy, it can be stress, it can be anything, right? Not just it doesn't just apply to anger. You must understand that peace is the only true protection. Not anger, not worry, not stress, not envy, not jealousy, no negative emotional state. Anger attracts more attack. Peace dissolves the resonance of conflict. You need to understand the nature of emotions, right? So whenever you're going through an emotion and you sustain it for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks, then the universe sees that, and since universe is a mirror, it will try to reinforce that emotion by giving you more circumstances, more physical circumstances to sustain that emotion, right? And not only the universe wants that emotion to be sustained, it also wants it to be multiplied. It wants more of that emotion, right? So if you keep emitting worry all the time, like for example, let's say you are struggling for money and you keep worrying about money, right? And if you have been doing it for months upon months or even years or even decades, right? Since you're doing this for decades, the universe sees that and it gives you more circumstances for you to be worried about money, and your worry is multiplied month after month after month, and it becomes a vicious cycle loop, right? So I have given you a diagram over here, right? So instead of anger, you can put any negative emotion that you are facing, but you can still choose peace in that particular situation. You can still flip the switch to peace. You have that power. You have to believe that you have that power, right? So let's talk about why state triumphs over technique. The universe does not speak human languages, it speaks frequency, which is your state, right? Your affirmations, vision boards, and scripts are often just noise if they don't shift your frequency. Your frequency contains very components. It contains your beliefs, it contains your attention, it contains your emotionally charged thoughts, it contains your emotions, it contains your identity, it contains your expectations, it contains your reactions. But the most dominant factor of your frequency is emotions. That's why I talk about emotions a lot on my channel, right? If you can figure out that one component, then the rest of the components of a frequency automatically get aligned. Not most of the time, but it becomes significantly more easier for you to tune your frequency to your desired reality, right? So your state, that is how you feel in your gut, is the signal, right? The signal always overrides the noise. A technique only works when it helps you cross the threshold into feeling of the wish fulfilled. A technique just facilitates, that make it easier for you to reach the feeling of wish fulfilled. Just let me say it again. Your technique just facilitates, right? It just makes it easier for you to get that feeling of your wish fulfilled. But and once you are in that feeling, the technique becomes obsolete. The technique becomes useless, right? So techniques are merely psychological permission slips. You use a technique to give yourself permission to feel relieved. These techniques are not just some magical wands that you use for you to shift your reality, for you to change your reality. What matters is your state, not the technique. The techniques that you use does not create reality. Only your state does, and you use techniques just to change your state, just to reach those higher states like joy, bliss, happiness, peace, gratitude. Right? Your techniques does not create reality. Only your state does, and all techniques does is facilitate your emotions, facilitate your state to make it easier for you to reach a higher state. So the masterclass level is to realize you can grant yourself permission to feel relieved simply because you exist, right? You do not need the ritual, you do not need the technique, you just need the relief, and you can create it without any technique. That is the most powerful thing that you can cultivate. That is the skill that you can cultivate. Check my video on state control. I talk about this, right? So let's talk about defining the end, right? So let me clarify the most common confusion that comes with people in terms of manifestation. Circumstances such as money in the bank, a ring on the finger, are shadows cast by the mind. Shadows cannot create, they can only reflect. To change the shadow, you must move the object, which is the mind, right? Living in the end does not mean hallucinating that you are currently driving a Ferrari. It means accessing the feeling of freedom and power that the Ferrari represents to you. There's a subtle difference in this, right? Ask yourself, if I had that desire, how would I feel? For example, you might feel secure. For example, if you have been worrying about money all your life, then it will turn out that you are insecure about money. So if you had a lot of money, if you are financially free, then you would feel secure, right? Therefore, the end is the state of security in this particular example. If you can generate a feeling of security right now, you have technically achieved that manifestation. That's all manifestation is. Manifestation is all about cultivating an internal state rather than seeing external changes. And you cultivating that internal state will result in external reality changes, right? The physical evidence is just the lag time catching up. So let's understand the buffer that happens in manifestations. The necessary interval between the seed, which is the changing your state, and the harvest, which is the physical manifestation. That is what we're going to talk about, right? Imagine every thought manifested instantly. One moment of fear would manifest a monster, right? The time delay is a safety mechanism that allows you to change your mind and stabilize your state before reality hardens, right? The period where you hold the state despite the lack of physical evidence, that is what you need. This is where most people fail. They check the mirror, see no change, and abandon the state. Once you realize manifestation is not about external changes, but it is all about internal change, then you will realize that manifestations happen all the time. That you have been achieving the manifestations, right? So let me give you an analogy. You do not dig up a seed every hour to see if it's growing, right? When you plant a seed, you water it. That is maintaining your state. You don't dig it up and see if it has grown, if it has become a tree. You don't do it. You trust it. You have faith that it will grow. You just water it, right? So when you are in the state of wish fulfilled, the roots are growing underground in the quantum field, right? Just because you cannot see the sprout doesn't mean the work isn't done, right? So let's talk about somatic safety. You cannot manifest abundance from a nervous system stuck in fight or flight. If your body feels unsafe, that is, if you feel panic, if you feel anxiety, if you feel fear, it shuts down the creative centers of the brain to focus on survival. You cannot affirm your way out of a panic attack. You simply can't do it, right? Before doing any mental techniques, you must regulate the body, right? So, for example, deep breathing, grounding, or simple pleasures signal safety to the body, which is why I always do deep breathing before I do a meditation, right? Because doing these physical acts can really, really calm down your nervous system, calm down your mind, and make you more relaxed, right? So let's talk about building the energetic container to hold your desire. If you manifest huge success, but your nervous system associates excitement with danger, you will self sabotage to return to your safe baseline of struggle. Expanding your capacity to feel good is as important as the manifestation itself, right? For example, you might be fearing the responsibilities that come with handling money, right? If you have a lot of money, then you need to save it, you need to keep it secure, right? You need to sustain it. If you receive $100,000 in this moment, you need to be responsible for it. You can't waste it away, right? So think about what problems would I have if I manifested my desire. That will open up the fears that you have in your subconscious. That will open up the mental blocks, right? Think about what problems would I have if I manifested my desires. For example, if you want to manifest your SP, if you want to manifest a romantic partner, then think about the problems that may come up. You might argue, right? You might have a breakup. You might get a divorce. There are many terrible things that can happen. And if you fear divorce, if you fear breakup, if you fear arguments, if you fear that your partner might cheat on you, then all these insecurities, all these fears will sabotage your manifestation, because right now your manifestation goal is to manifest a romantic partner. So think about all the things that can go wrong or the problems that may happen if you manifested a desire, because getting a divorce or ending up in a breakup can only happen if you manifested a romantic partner, right? So that is the upper limit problem. If you're making 50K per month but you want to reach 100K per month, and if you manufacture 100K per month, then think about the problems that can happen if you are at 100K per month. You need to sustain it, right? You need to hire a team, you need to hire a sales rep, you need to hire an appointment setter, right? And people can scam you, people can be lazy, right? So think about the fears that you have if you manifested your desires, right? that is that is a good thing to think about, because many people go wrong. Many people subconsciously fear things that can happen if their desire gets manifested, and they don't even know it, right? So journal about this. So let's talk about revision. right? This section explains how to fix a bad day so it doesn't ruin your tomorrow. It is like having a magic eraser for your memories, right? So imagine your memory is a video file on a computer and you are the editor. Just because something happened in real life doesn't mean you have to keep the file in your brain. If you had an awkward conversation, you can just go into your mind and edit it, right? Your brain doesn't really know the difference between what actually happened and what you vividly imagine happened. It doesn't know the difference, right? So if you rewrite the scene in your head, your brain eventually accepts the new version, right? So bad days usually happen like a chain reaction. Revision cuts the chain because if you had a bad day and you feel terrible and you take that emotion to the next day, and since we already talked about the mechanics of the universe, it sees what emotion you are in and it wants to reinforce that emotion. It wants to create more circumstances to sustain that emotion and multiply it. But devotion cuts off that chain, right? Let's take an example. You wake up late, which is domino one, you get mad at traffic, which is domino two, and you have a bad meeting, which is domino three, right? So the intervention here is if you had a bad morning, stop at lunch, close your eyes, and reimagine the morning going perfectly. That is how you break the loop of having a bad day, having a bad week, having a bad year, right? By doing this, you stop the bad energy from leaking into your afternoon. You reset your vibe. So when do you use it, right? Your bedtime is the most powerful time to use this tool, right? Never, ever, 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 ever go to sleep feeling like a victim or feeling defeated, right? Whatever you feel right before sleep impresses deeply into your subconscious mind, right? So before you drift off, look back at your day. If anything unpleasant happened, replay that scene in your mind, but change it to whatever you want it to happen, right? If you, for example, if your boss yelled at you, replay the scene where your boss smiles and says, "You did a great job today." Feel the relief of the new scene and then go to sleep, right? You will wake up feeling more refreshed rather than being bitter. And revision doesn't mean that you are delusional and pretending that that physical event didn't happen. It means you are removing the emotional sting from it. You are removing the bad emotional reaction you had when that particular incident happened, and you're rewriting the emotion you associate with the particular circumstance, to that particular incident, right? So instead of remembering the event as the time I failed, you revise it to feel like the time I learned and got better. When you change how you feel about the past, you also change your future, right? So let's talk about the 24-hour reality ratio. This section explains why doing a technique for 10 minutes doesn't work if you spend the rest of your day worrying. It's all about simple math, right? So let's talk about it. Think of your mind like a diet. If you eat if you eat a healthy salad for lunch, this can be taken as your 15-minute meditation that you do, visualizing your ideal reality. But then you eat pizza, candy, and soda for the rest of your day, which is, you can take it as you worrying and you feeling doubtful for the rest of your day. You won't get healthy, right? That particular salad doesn't cancel out all the junk you have put in your system. Manifestation works the same way. The universe looks at your entire day, right? If you affirm I am rich for 5 minutes but worry about bills for 16 hours, the worry wins because you gave it more time, more attention, more energy, right? It is not about a technique, it is about the state that you emit throughout your day. I can talk about this all day, I can talk about the importance of this. You need to get it through your head. The technique does not matter. Only what matters is your state that you're emitting it throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your month, throughout your year, right? So pay attention to the quiet feeling in the background of your mind. Even when you are not thinking specific thoughts, you have a general mood, you have a general vibe, right? So ask yourself, are you generally relaxed or are you generally tense? That tension is a constant signal asking for more stress, right? Your goal is not to be jumping for joy 24 hours. That's exhausting, that is not sustainable. Your goal is to make peace your normal setting, right? If your baseline feeling is calm, feeling safe, feeling peace, you are winning the game, right? And your subconscious mind never sleeps and it never stops listening, right? It hears what you say when you stub your toe. It hears what you say when you mutter under your breath when the traffic is bad. It hears what you tell your best friend when you're venting, right? So often the most powerful affirmations are the ones you say casually. So for example, if you tell a friend, man, I just can't catch a break, right? Then the universe says, okay, no breaks for you. Keep working hard, keep being stressed, no breaks for you at all. That is what the universe will say, right? So you must start telling a better story even in casual conversations. You must be aware what you talk, what you say, even in casual conversations, because you might say it as a joke, but the subconscious, but the universe never takes it as a joke. It doesn't know jokes, right? So don't even say it casually, right? So stop separating manifesting from living. Both are the same. You're manifesting every day, you're manifesting every hour, every minute, every second, right? Don't just close your eyes and imagine being confident. Actually walk like you're confident when you go to the grocery store. Speak calmly when you order coffee, right? You need to walk the walk, right? Every moment is a chance to practice. When you treat yourself with respect, you are manifesting. When you refuse to get angry at a rude person, you are manifesting. You are living the technique all day long. So this is like, your lifestyle is your technique. That is the summary of this video. You can't do a technique for 10 minutes a day and worry for the rest of the 23 hours. You just can't do that, right? Your lifestyle is your technique. What emotional vibe that you're emitting throughout your day, that is your technique, right? So you need to keep your baseline state as peace. You need to keep your baseline state as being calm. That is you winning in manifestation. That is you winning this manifestation game, right? You can just have fun. Literally, you can just have fun throughout your day. You don't need to do any techniques and still manifest all your desires. Because most of the time, people who watch hundreds of manifestation videos, who read hundreds of books, I was that person, right? So people who are obsessed about manifestation, they usually are miserable. But people who don't actually care about manifestation, who just have fun, they manifest all their desires, because it's all about your state. It's not about how much knowledge you have, right? So when you, like, there are nuances to this, like, because, like, if you say that you're going to do a technique, you are going to do a practice, then you need to do it because you have made a commitment for yourself. If you break that commitment, then that destroys your self-trust, and your self-trust is also a component of a frequency. That is a separate topic for another video. But for this video, all I can say is, you can simply have fun. You can simply do the things that makes you enjoy, that makes you feel relaxed. And I'm not talking about you playing video games all day, you basically doom scrolling all day, and that, I'm not saying you can manifest like that, but I'm talking about you genuinely having fun. Like, think about the activities that you would do if you manifested your desires. If you start doing these activities right now and start having fun for, like, whenever possible, like if you're going for a job or if you're running a business, most of the time it's not possible, but whenever you have, like, if you fill up your day with fun activities, or you can even make your work fun, right? So just by having fun, just by being in a better emotional state, by just by being in a good vibe, you can still manifest all your desires. Because think about the states that you would emit if you already manifested your desires, right? Like, if you want money, if you want to manifest a lots of money, then think about the states that you would feel if you already had that money. That would include peace, that would include being secure, that would include that you would have fun. If you had a lot of money, you would have fun. Then why not have the fun right now? Because you need to attain the state first before you attain that physical manifestation, right? So you can just have fun and still manifest all your desires. So just have fun, bro. Just vibe, listen to good music, treat your work like play, right? And have a good time. Literally have a good time. Like, you can do a technique. All a technique does is makes it easy for you to reach those higher emotional states. But don't force a technique upon yourself, because techniques are not mandatory. If you can be in a good emotional vibe throughout your day, then the technique is not needed. And yeah, That's it from me. If you want to work with me personally, implement all I talk about in my videos on a personal level, because I get to know your situation, I get to know what you're going through, and I can give you specific protocols and advice that is personalized to your own situation, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a high achiever, if you are a trader, whoever you are, right? Whoever you are, wherever you're in a journey, I can help you to manifest whatever desires you have, right? So check out the link in the description, and that's it from me. I will see you in another video.